College football playoff championship viewership dropped, and it dropped quite a bit. Ohio State versus Notre Dame averaged 22.1 million viewers. That was down 12% from last season's championship game. That was Michigan versus Washington, and that hit 25 million. The crazy thing about this, like Michigan versus Washington was actually down from the Alabama-Michigan Rose Bowl semifinal last season. That averaged over 27 million viewers. Ohio State Notre Dame was the third lowest audience of the 11 CFP title games. All three of those have happened in the last 5 years. This is only the second of the last 5 years where the title game has been the most watched game of the season. It's kind of surprising, right? In 2020, the New Year's Day Clemson versus Ohio State Sugar Bowl, it did 19.15 million. Bama's 52-24 win over the Buckeyes drew only 18.7 million. In 2022, Georgia versus Ohio State did 22.45 million on New Year's Eve in the Peach Bowl. In Georgia's 65-7 win over TCU, it only did 17.2 million. So blowouts, obviously, big part of this. Last year's Rose Bowl with Bama and Michigan went to overtime, 27-20 final score. It did 27.76 million viewers. That was the third most watched game of the CFP era. So how do we fix the issue? Like, I do not expect it to be resolved anytime soon, but this is how I would make sure to have the bigger numbers, even amidst all the cord cutting, etc. The biggest problem is the fact that the past 5 championship games have had an average margin of 25.4 points. Like, this one was close at the end, but I think a lot of people turned their TVs off when Ohio State went up 28-7 to start the third quarter, and then they got the ball right back and kicked the field goal. So 31-7, most of the audience was already lost. Like, blowouts do not keep viewers. It may not necessarily matter, right? ESPN paid more. They got more from the CFP. The viewership for last year's New Year's 6+ CFP title game was 104.13 million. That was a total of 7 games. So you had an average viewership of 14.88 million. This year's the 11 playoff games drew 172.12 million for an average of 15.65 million. So ESPN got 68 million more viewers for the playoff than they did on the CFP and the bowls last year, but they only averaged about 770,000 more viewers per game. Is that worth the additional money that ESPN paid for it? I don't know that, right? So let's go through how I would fix this issue, because Super Bowl blowouts don't lose viewers. Like, why? Because people schedule around it. It doesn't have to fit into a schedule. People schedule for it. And that takes us to number 1, which is fix the calendar. Easy. The Super Bowl kicks off every single year on a Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. It is done by 10 p.m. Eastern time every year. It's on a day when people are typically off work. It's late enough that you can get things done beforehand. And by God, it's on the same day that most regular season games are played throughout the season. Every Sunday from September through the first weekend in February, there are NFL games on. No matter if it's a holiday, anything else. It's Sunday, that means the NFL is on. College football from August through December is on Saturdays. Every single Saturday, there is a game on. And then we get to the playoffs, and we started with playoff games on Saturday, but then we had games on Tuesday, December 31st, Wednesday, January 1st, and we even had one pushed back to Thursday, January 2nd. And then we had semifinal games on Thursday, January 9th, and Friday, January 10th. And then we had the championship game on Monday, January 20th. Casual fans could not keep up with when the games were on, especially if they don't always watch ESPN. Like, I would just as soon say, damn the bowl format and damn New Year's Day. Like, we can have bowl games on those days, but the playoff games should be on Saturdays going forward. Every playoff round should be on Saturdays. I think fans will be willing to watch college football over in the NFL. Or they'll be somewhere that they've got multiple TVs to be able to watch both games. I know networks likely won't go for that, but it is an idea. Just tossing it out there. Also, the end of the regular season was November 30th. The playoff didn't start until December 21st. Like, the NFL regular season ended one weekend, and the playoff started the next weekend. I know that we've got championship games, right? Like, the championship game for the CFP was held 59 days after the end of the regular season. Like, that is insanity. Even if you say that it was held 52 days after the conference championship games, it is still absurd, because the NFL regular season ended January 5th. The Super Bowl is on February 9th. That's about a month. It's not that crazy. Like, you can get these games in. But there's so many pockets to fill and mouths to feed and viewership to try and attain by scheduling on these weird days. I hate it. I hate all of it. Either way, let's move to number 2. Get more than one network involved. ESPN bought the exclusive rights to the CFP, to the college football playoff. So they've got the deal for the next 7 years. But after the contract is over, I would make sure first that the over-the-air networks are involved, that the broadcast networks are involved. Like, I honestly thought that you remember the Alliance? You guys remember that? Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, they joined up to block CFP expansion a few years ago. And I thought the Alliance was put together by the Big Ten, really, to get Fox a seat at the table for the CFP. But apparently that was not the case. Once the college football regular season was over, you never saw the sport mentioned again on Fox Sports, on CBS, on NBC, because why would they? They got no stakes in this thing. After December 1st, at most, those channels had one bowl game between non-elite teams. There was no reason for them to talk about the college football playoff. Now, I hate to mention the NFL again, but for their playoffs, they've got a game on Amazon, on ESPN and ABC. Remember the simulcast thing? That's something that should be happening. Starting in 2027, I believe that the championship game is going to be simulcast on ABC. So the ratings will probably get better, but it's so late in the calendar. Anyway, they had games on Amazon, on ESPN, ABC. They had games on CBS, NBC, and Fox. And all networks are contractually obligated to promote what channel the other games are on. Aside from Amazon, they're all over-the-air networks. You don't have to have any kind of subscription to watch those channels. You can get them with rabbit ears. Even cord cutters can watch these for free, and they do in very high numbers. Like the Texans versus Chiefs divisional round playoff game that was simulcast on ESPN and ABC did 33.8 million viewers for one playoff game. Like the national championship game in college football on a Monday that was only on ESPN, it did 22.1 million. So you've got a divisional round playoff game versus the national, like the Super Bowl of this sport, and it outdrew it by more than 11 million viewers. That's just insane. Like, could you imagine if the college football playoff was on ABC, CBS, and Fox? Like, we could even leave out NBC if you want to. But imagine those three networks all advertising every CFP game. Like, this is an easy one. Get more networks involved. That's more advertising. That's more people watching. That's more people knowing when the championship game is going to be. And then number 3, the last one, at least for now, better coordinate promotion of the sport. Like this sounds complicated, but it's really not. Like for some reason, the SEC and the Big Ten announced their entire schedules back in the middle of the season for no reason. The ACC, we talked about it earlier, they have created 3 days of content. They did it on a Thursday and a Friday, so people could talk about it through the weekend. And then on Monday, so you've got the rest of the week to talk about it. They created 3 days of content with the way they released their schedules. Like getting everyone on the same page when it comes to announcing talent acquisitions, like recruiting in the portal, when it comes to announcing schedules or marquee non-conference matchups. Those things should not just be announced randomly by the schools. The conferences should be putting together the news cycle to keep people talking about the sport in the times that they normally would not. Now, do I think any of this happens anytime soon? Not likely at all. Like everybody is only worried about themselves. But if you want to know how the NFL continues to peak, this is how they do it. The news cycle is never ending for those guys. And college football could be the same. They could draw at least half of what, instead of a fourth, they should be able to do at least half of what the NFL does. And yet they just cannot get out of their own way. It's very, very frustrating.